Guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about an article I can't believe isn't satirical. I still have hope though, it's pretty much confirmed it's not. Quick thing, I'm jet lagged, I'm nauseated, so if I seem all the way fucked up in this video, you're right. This article is titled, "Sorry Android users, these iPhone snobs won't date you." It says, "Forget dreamy eyes, the color of the ocean. For young daters, the color of text messages is all that matters." I love articles that really represent us young people well. When people with iPhones text each other, their messages send in blue speech bubbles, but when they text non-iPhone owners, messages send in a different hue, bright green, as if to signal that they're talking to an outsider. Now listen, before we get deeper into this, I'm an English major, okay? I know what it's like to be overly analytical, and sometimes it works against us because we start seeing things that don't actually have a meaning and we assign our meaning to it, and then that causes essentially a neurosis. Now, I'm not saying that is for sure what's happening with the author, but I have to say, this is starting with a really big reach. For singles, it's more than just an aesthetic thing. It's a dating red flag. Or green flag, as it were. If it's not a blue message, I'm not going to bother flirting with you further, Brooklyn resident and freelance designer Katie McDonough tells the Post. I'm just like, why don't you have an iPhone? Okay, Katie sounds like she sucks. I know that's a little bit of a harsh judgment, but I'm nauseated, so I think I'm allowed to be slightly meaner than usual. But really, is that what we've come to? All of this progress, I mean, in some fields. Is that really where we're at? And I know I sound like a broken record, but genuinely I'm mystified at how these people have survived this long, that they haven't gotten run over by a bus or maybe murdered for saying stupid things. While Android phones have a larger market share than iPhones, millennials feel a stronger emotional attachment to Apple products than any other brand, according to a 2018 analysis by marketing agency MBLM. McDonough, who's 23, says she finds texting with Android users limiting for very specific reasons. She likes seeing the 3 dots that show when iPhone owners are typing, the receipt confirming that a message has been delivered, and the ability to react to messages with a haha or heart. I don't know why Katie thought it was a good idea to share this with the world. First of all, you're doing 2 distinct things at once. You are A, making yourself undateable to pretty much anyone with more than one brain cell, and B, you're also attracting all the other shallow weirdos who have a fixation with other people having iPhones, even though it has no bearing on the type of person you are. But everyone's allowed to have their preferences. I'm allowed to think it's dumb. Okay, clearly I underestimated the importance Katie gives to this whole texting thing, because I can't really imagine being really upset that I can't send a ha-ha or a heart. I just don't see why that's so relevant. And to me, it seems like Katie might have put her sense of identity in her phone. It's kind of like the typical thing when people take something that's not a personality trait but act like it's a personality trait, kind of like in MySpace days when people would say they were so random because they wear 2 different types of socks. Same shit. So really, she's not like the other girls, but like in the worst way possible. It's just a turnoff if they don't have an iPhone, she says. On Tinder, you message someone within the app for a while and then you exchange numbers. You're like, I hope it's blue, and it's a relief when it is. It's a relief. So your biggest concern when it comes to dating, or one of the biggest concerns, is whether someone else has an iPhone. Let that reality sink in for a second and wake up to smell the pathetic, because, and this isn't even specific to Katie, anyone who's in Katie's shoes, you gotta rethink your priorities if you're really concerned about someone having an iPhone. I didn't date prior to my husband, but I think that one of the key things is also, you know, your safety, because when you start dating people, you don't really know who it is you're dealing with. They could be a whole ass murderer, and you're here being like, oh my god, I can't believe he sent me a green message. I met my husband via Tinder. I know the type of people who are on Tinder. Like, there are fine people and then there are maniacs. So if you're on Tinder, maybe focus on the thing where you don't get murdered instead of focusing on the color of the message they send you. Also, I feel like I have to read that in a different voice.
It's a turn off if they don't have an iPhone. On Tinder, you message someone for a while and then you exchange numbers. You're like, I hope it's blue. And it's a relief when it is.
That sounded more like it, right? In college, her then boyfriend switched from iPhone to Android and it made communication difficult, creating a rift between them. Their love couldn't overcome their smartphone differences. I don't know who has to hear this apart from Katie. If your love is damaged by the fact that one of you has an Android, there's no love there. Okay, I'm sorry. That is the worst thing I've ever heard. I just have all these images going through my head now, you know, of like the great love stories in history and, you know, people making real sacrifices to be with the ones they love. And, you know, love that conquers everything and has no bounds, like the shit my mom likes. And here we are with people breaking up because they had two different types of phones. The one and only scenario where I can see a phone causing problems in a relationship is if someone actually doesn't have access to a phone and you're doing long distance and they don't have access to internet or whatever, so you can't talk to them at all. That's the only scenario in which I can see a phone being central. Other than that, I'm sorry, I don't see it. Katie, you gotta help me out here. I think that was when our relationship started to go downhill. I think the relationship was already pretty fucked, if you ask me, if that caused the end of it. That doesn't even sound like a relationship. That sounds like elementary school. I'm sorry, but who? I know they're young, but still, you're in college. You're not 5. There's genuinely no reason. And okay, I don't need to do a whole analysis. It's fucked. Moving on. Jacob Landsman, 23, is an Android user and he knows he might be judged for his choice by potential partners. See, now, this is the part where the article starts bothering me because I don't like when we turn something that's not victimhood into victimhood. You choosing to have an Android does not make you a victim because some dumbass will judge you because you don't have an iPhone. That doesn't make you a victim, so this whole thing of like,
he might be judged for his choice by potential partners.
No, girl, no, just stop. And then it says, it's definitely something I'm a little scared of happening, says the West Village resident. So, first of all, who gives a shit if a bunch of like hipsters don't like the fact that you have an Android? What are they doing most of the time anyway? Making granola? Who gives a shit about what they think? But I genuinely can't imagine living a life where I'm so concerned about my phone and what people will think about it. And I think the thing that trips me out the most about this is if they're so focused on something so absolutely trivial, do they lose their shit when they think about bigger problems, or are they just unaware of the bigger problems because they're so focused on this little shit? His friends have mocked his Android in group text messages, but he says that if a potential match were to have a genuine issue with his smartphone, he wouldn't be attracted to them. Well, thank God for that. Thank God if someone proves themselves to be incredibly shallow, then all of a sudden you're not attracted to them. I think that's the one good thing about this article. The stupidity fog has lifted and our boy has some clarity. If someone wants to shame me for the kind of phone I have, they're not worth dating anyway, he says. Thank you. Some believe Apple purposely implemented the text color scheme, which has been part of the iPhone operating system's design since iMessage launched in 2011 to create a stigma against Android users. This seems a little conspiratorial to me. To be honest, this just reminds me of BlackBerry Messenger or BBM. BBM essentially functioned the same way that iMessage functions, that you both need to have a BlackBerry or you both need to have an iPhone in order to use BlackBerry Messenger or iMessage. It's not about excluding other people, it's about the exclusivity of having a phone in common and being able to message other people with the phone in a particular type of way. I don't see that as exclusionary at all. I just think it makes sense, to be honest. The fact that they're trying to pin it as exclusionary, making everyone who doesn't have an iPhone some sort of victim, is just so sad. Like, imagine wanting to be oppressed by something so dumb. I definitely think it's intended to create a false in-crowd thing, Grayson Earl, an adjunct professor at the New School, tells the Post. Android texts, he says, are designed to look less appealing on Apple's iMessage. Now, I agree they do look less appealing, but I don't know if the design committee or whatever it's called sat down at a table and was like, you know what would make this really ugly? I mean, I think they needed a system to differentiate. And the thing is, if it weren't ugly, I mean, it's subjective, but if the green message weren't ugly and it were some like really pretty message, don't you think they'd still try and find a way to make it so that Apple is trying to exclude Android users? I feel like they're just committed to finding something wrong at this point. For Earl, an Android user, phone type doesn't matter, but using a texting app that has good data privacy, such as Signal, does. This sounds like an ad. If you're not using good open standards for communication that are encrypted, he says, I don't think we can ever get together. This story just took weirder and weirder turns, from the chick who's fixated with iPhones to the guy who's fixated with being judged for not having an iPhone to this adjunct professor who pretty much just told us his dating preferences are people who have encrypted communication systems, and it slightly sounds like an ad for Signal. I'm so confused as to the direction this article went in. And what I want to know is why someone would bother writing this useless article. And the other thing I want to know, and only I can answer this, is why would I waste my time reading a useless article? Yet here I am and I have no answers and just am discouraged about life. But on a real note, I do think that here we have a classic example of projection and overanalysis, because realistically, I don't think Apple is a saint of a company, but I also don't think they sat down and were like, how do we make everyone else feel left out? I genuinely don't think they give a shit. So that conspiracy theory does not work for me. We can agree that social media has its pros and its cons, just like everything else, but I definitely feel like one of the shittier parts of social media is that everything is turned into a larger metaphor for something else. And sometimes it just isn't that deep, you know? And I feel like so much is projected because it's always easy to make social media look bad or make social media look dangerous, when of course some of it is, but you can't say everything is terrible and everything is super dangerous. The thing is, there are a lot of articles like this nowadays that demonize social media and technology altogether, really, especially here with our iPhone example. And it's just a shame because we find these articles that have all these assigned and prescribed meanings just put onto things that might not have a meaning at all. And it turns something that could just be enjoyable or a preference or a detail into this much larger story. And sometimes there is a larger story, but sometimes there just isn't. But when you commit to finding the answer you want, we're not really having a discussion. You're just saying what your conclusion is and acting like you have data to prove it. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you think it's absolutely moronic like I do? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get right into the fan art.